Jax again from Arla seems like a must, as Kai'Sa this time will not be let through.
Rel is up, Azir is up, lots of power picks available on the table, something like the Sejuani also powerful. We were asking for the Rel first pick, it is going to get locked in, so we have the flex picks between jungle and support locked in for Weibo.
Potentially a Jace and a Sejuani consideration from the side of EDG, as that is also left up and open. We don't have a lot of Jace party coming into tonight's series, but to be fair, that is one of Fofo's most played. So he did also show up. It is going to be a blind Renekton out of your boy, Arla.
Now, I know it hasn't been the core problem consistently, but it's been a bad omen in some regard. But what does this leave open for Weibo?
What does it leave open? I think the Azir is a big pick here. I think that Xiaohu, I prefer him on the Azir to something like that Jace, even though, of course, they ended up losing on the Azir game and winning on that Jace. It's just so good at being a secondary engaged threat, being another carry threat as well. It also allows you to play at a longer range from something like that Renekton, regardless of which champions you have there. You want to pick up a long-range DPS threat, which means that the Renekton Sejuani, they can threaten to fall off later into the game if they can't close down the carries.
Something we haven't seen this entire best of 5 is any Varus attention, right? I mean, we had a couple of lethality Varuses going into the summer playoffs and of course the grand finals, but not having the most ideal result. But the Shy on this in the past 2 games, I mean, he had an excellent showing, and it does provide great follow-up engage for WeiboGaming to get clear engages fights.
And this is straight down the center of the win condition, which you've said about Kitty, which is the team which wins tends to have the better AoE CC. Now, Renekton Sejuani, very single target, great at snowballing, but Ornn, Rel, and then even the Azir, right, they are great at when the fights start getting grouped up.
And this has just been the top lane matchup throughout. Arla and the Shy have been practicing between Renekton, Ornn, swapping the matchup, swapping it back again. So we'll see how the Shy goes this time, as the Jace that you guys were mentioning before is finally locked in.
Okay, EDG, I think they have to ban out Poppy. We saw what Weibo could do with that later into, well, very early into game 1, right? And that would allow potentially Weibo to contest on the top side of the map and get things rolling very, very early. You have double melee synergy between Jace and the Hammer Form, and then Renekton towards that top side of the map. EDG, they have to probably try and remove some of the early game denial options from Weibo, like that Poppy.
I wouldn't be surprised if WeiboGaming, they also consider something like that Leona against the champions like Jace, right? You have so much great gap closing that will also work beautifully alongside the Rel jungle and of course the Ornn in the top side. But still, ADC is what I'm most curious about, because I feel like coming into summer, Uzi has been a little bit weird with what ADCs he's decided to opt into, like the Sivir and the Lucian, which we've seen do well.
I think Weibo are trying to pigeonhole EDG into a position like they were in game 1, where they had the Renekton and the Sejuani, but no other engage. They locked in a Braum in that first game. Maybe things would have gone better if they'd had a Nautilus, which is now banned away by Weibo. It wouldn't surprise me to see something like a Rakan, like a Leona also taken off the table.
I just find it funny that tradition is here for Uzi, where he is one of the last picks in EDG's draft. Yet again, it's been the Zeri before on the blue side. It's Samira.
I'm sorry, it's not a Vayne.
Oh.
It's not a Vayne.
Well, look, I'm not going to get that excited. Normally against the Kai'Sa, as more AD carries are just banned away.
You know what I'm going to be excited about, though? Light has played Neela and Kalista through the summer playoffs, and both of them were huge wins for the side of WeiboGaming. 2 aggressive early game AD carries, of course, going up against Uzi and Meiko, but maybe the Braum is going to be considered by Meiko, but that is just falling into the trap of not having enough engage, but it does do well into the Ornn to really deny that call.
Blitzcrank ban coming out instead of something which is a bit more reliable engage. Of course, something like the Blitzcrank, pretty good versus enchanters. Maybe with Milio up,
yeah.
Maybe they think we can ban away the Blitzcrank and potentially lock in an enchanter towards the bot side. That's typically what Blitzcrank counters.
But last pick for Uzi here.
Oh, the Aphelios is getting hovered. I don't want to see Aphelios, man.
There we go. I'm so sorry. We had a whole thing before this went, oh, Milio, what does he do? Such a useless champion. When you get to stand alongside a long-range hyper carry, Milio makes your AD carry into a fountain laser. The increased attack range allowing you to play off against something like the shorter range Sejuani and Renekton towards the top side. Aphelios guns them down.
But meanwhile, Uzi's going to get this last pick. The crowd loves it, and why shouldn't they? Lucian's been banned against him quite a bit. Now we finally get to see why.
Now, Lucian had a couple of changes. He's typically a champion which before this was played with enchanters, because when he was buffed, he'd get an empowered auto attack on his next one. Now it's about the hard CC. Rakan is a strong laning support, can follow up on very long range engages. And with the Lucian ultimate too later into the game and into the mid game, he can still follow up.
It's very clear to say that EDG, they have a great mid-game team fighting composition coming into this game 3 with the Jace, with the Lucian, where they do spike up 2 items, and of course working alongside the Renekton and Sejuani that can provide a lot of aid. While on the other side of WeiboGaming, they are going to scale. Slow and steady is the pace for this game 3.
EDG have a composition which can move around fights very, very quickly. They can start fights quickly. They can dash forwards, Rakan, Lucian, all of these things, putting the pace of the game forwards. If you misstep, though, if you miss the Aphelios with the Milio giving the increased range, you will get burned down.
And that's a worrying trend because when we see Chris on more protective supports, there isn't that type of urgency. So the result of that is because of Weiwei, he needs to really show up in this game 3, picking the Rel in his pockets as well. But we'll have to wait and see because we're still even in the scoreline.
Well, Weibo last game, it was really theirs to take us to a 2-0, but EDG had other plans. Or maybe Weibo did as well. Here for the final spot at Worlds. It's tight. I mean, one apiece where EDG have shown us a little bit more draft diversity this time around. Have shown us a lot more in the game as well, especially the early game of last game. But the biggest question I have is it the Shy or is it Uzi returning to Worlds? Is it Xiaohu or Ala? These are players I've known for a while now. Ala, of course, he knows a little bit fresher, but Uzi starting all the way back in 2013, Xiaohu 2015. Both RNG legacy players. Both players that you feel like were so incorporated into the organization, it's weird to talk about them with Weibo, with EDG. They're players we all want to see both at Worlds, but only one can go. To break the tie, to get us to match point, is it Weibo? Is it EDG? Is it the Shy? Is it Uzi? Is it Xiaohu, Ala, Jeje, Mako, Crisp? Who is it? Let's answer the question as we get into game 3.
It is always worth remembering the ties that these players have for each other. We have the RNG Legends against each other. We have the LNG Miracle run as well of Light and Ala. Back from 2021, they're facing off against each other here too. So much history, so much rivalry and friendship all rolled into one.
And it all comes down to the last 3 games. We see EDG locking in a very aggressive composition for this game through Renekton and Sejuani. They have a limited amount of time before EDG's composition comes online because they have champions like the Ornn and the Azir, and of course the Aphelios and Millie in the bottom side.
But let's talk about that because again, if EDG need to really put pace on this game, when we talked about Weibo being hard scaling, run me through how they start that.
Part of it's going to come through laning phase. I think the Renekton and the Lucian, they need to have some strong early trades. I think even once you hit the level 6 mark, things can get a little bit awkward for them. The Milio ultimate will stop a lot of the harder engage coming in from EDG.
Flash is going to be very important for Light and Chris to hold on to because you already see Uzi and Mako. They're going to camp the bush, maybe even get a summoner out of life. He's not too careful.
Just trying to pay respect for the time being, but also just waiting for the wave. I mean, Light, how much is he going to give over? Mako showed, though. So never mind that. As he goes through the brush, Light and Chris will safely get into lane.
At that point as well, EDG were waiting to see if Chris would be close enough to Light. He has a couple of options at level 1. Could have stopped a W in with that Q, and of course, if that wasn't the case, can sit there with the campfire ready.
We see both junglers starting towards the top side, but still Rel will have the faster clear compared to something like the Sejuani. Once again, I mean, we have Cleanse available for Light, so he does have a little bit of a bailout, but you have to consider the fact that EDG, they don't really have a hard CC other than the Ignite that you can really cleanse off.
So is that going to be an issue? I guess that the biggest thing is we've seen so far in this series a lot of talk about supplementary engage, right? Crisp especially on the side of Weibo as heal comes out. No point talking about it because Crisp has just had to burn a summoner.
Yes, I think at Weibo, they are paying respect to what's happened in the first 2 games where it has felt like those level 2 to level 1 trades have decided the early lane.
Something I do love is that ward in the tri-bush, trying to spot out if Jeje wants to go for an early level 3 gank towards the bottom side because we talked about the importance of this Aphelios coming online, especially alongside the Milio, but the early game is what they need to tough through.
Not to bring us back to school, but geography is very important on the map. If you're on blue side, it's much easier to get towards bot lane because of that tri-brush. Warding that out, as you said, helps protect them. Jeje, though, doesn't go towards bot lane, goes into the enemy jungle, stops way away from getting his Raptors.
Not going to take the full trade as Permafrost is available for Jeje. Still looking for the Raptors as on the enemy side of the jungle, Weiwei is just standing and watching. Camp's taken away as there's a Shattering Strike, but as he remounts, Jeje's playing it dangerous or maybe just confident here on the Sejuani.
He's got red buff to blue buff, has extra combat stats and gets a good trade whilst Weiwei was stuck on his camp as well. So Jeje getting the arm over this jungle matchup early.
The biggest problem for WBG in this Game 3 is they have no lane party whatsoever in every single lane. So you already see JJ bouncing off that perfectly and going to threaten the red buff. It isn't going to get committed to because the wave is slowly bouncing back towards the bottom side, but you already see at EDG they have a very different approach to this Game 3.
Part of the reason they can do that is because Crisp isn't on a champion which can fight right from level 3. If this was Leona, there's a chance that he leaves lane and goes into the enemy jungle. So EDG using that factor in their advantage and also using the fact that they had pushed Weibo's bot lane under tower to their advantage.
Ala just took the Scuttle Crab by himself as the Renekton, so that puts Weiwei so far behind in terms of tempo. You already see him wrapping around though, but EDG, they have so much mobility towards his bottom side. It's going to be incredibly hard if they do want to look to force something on this wave.
Weiwei still coming into River. Again, just trying to make an opportunity through bot side that he's done all series long. Might still be something, you talked about the mobility, but it might still be someone that's to be traded off as Gravitum is available for light. All he needs to do is lock someone down.
No cleanse on Uzi. That's going to be very important against that Gravitum. There's a chance that we get a couple of flashes committed here. Depends how far Uzi walks up to the wave. They would love to get this kill. They're looking for it.
Mango spots him out onto Uzi. Gravitum's there. He flashes, as you said. No cleanse. Is it going to hurt him? Flashing into range light. You psycho! First blood goes over to Weiwei as look on the side. JJ just can't enter.
Right weapons for the job. Gravitum takes him down.
The only hard CC from the Aphelios and the Milia, and Uzi decides to walk up with the Shy.
Searing charge away. The Shy is only level 5, waiting for the grass to come through. Ala's the Renekton, but it's on! Might Shy Sensei!
And the Shy doing the Shy things on level 5 on. The Renekton falling, not using the flash as well. He can TP back into the lane, but that is one of your huge early game win cons being set behind.
And this is one of the huge players for EDG getting put behind. Ala hasn't really been the story of this series. He's been playing again. The Ornn in the last game was much more important than laning advantages. Going back into the replay here though, it's exactly what we said. There was no cleanse. You go into the Gravitum. It's like when you're playing something like the Thresh Felios or something like that to setup into death.
Something that was really cool is that Milia W does provide extra range, and it did catch Uzi off guard using the Gravitum, of course, to lock down the AD carry of EDG. But this 1v1 out of the Shy, to be fair, Ala was taking a huge wave, and that did tons of damage.
It's minion diff. It's 100% minion diff. As you said, uses both the slice and the dice, so can't get back out. The Shy, seriously well played on an individual level, which we've not always seen from him.
We're not doing it again. Dominus is there. Call the Forge God comes through, but this time with Dominus, so much more damage. The Shy might just get solo killed back. He does! 1 for 1. What an entertaining top laner.
Doesn't
we
stop.
Step into the Gladiator ring down bot side. It's a huge Gravitum from light. EDG walked into this, and now with once again Xiao getting a perfect wall. EDG are blasted.
And now suddenly 2-0 and 1 on the Aphelios. The Fountain Laser is becoming a reality in the bot lane of Weibo.
A huge Shurima shuffle once again out of Xiaohu. He hits 3 members onto EDG. He just keeps getting away with it.
We now have ourselves a Game 3 at 1-on-1, which once again, like the early games in the series, has been very explosive in the early game. Weibo running away with it again.
I mean, Light and Chris playing so aggressive with that cozy campfire, Weiwei hovering down the bot side. And guys, I thought I was meant to chill out in this early game. I thought EDG were the ones with priority. How come Weibo suddenly winning the game?
Just a reminder, Weibo have the highest average kills per game out of the entirety of playoffs in the LPL. They do start games off like this. Even in Game 2, they went for aggressive plays. It just turned against them. We're going back towards replay, though. It's just as we were praising the Shy. He used the flash for that last kill. Doesn't have the flash to escape this play.
And both top laners did turn level 6 as these minions died off. But like you said, the flash was the biggest difference. Zala coming back with the TP, getting that item advantage as well. But still, the bottom Dragon 4v4 was absolutely insane. Putting Light ahead on this Aphelios is something that you can't have on the side of EDG. 3-man Shurima shuffle out of Xiaohu. He keeps finding these angles as EDG completely suffocated.
Worth noting in this replay, Uzi's not here. Uzi's in bot lane. They don't have the AD carry damage, and Lucian's early damage from this as well. He can be very powerful with just his basic abilities, but not there to turn the fight.
How's Light with Infernum timing for Gravitum as well? 3 members, just insanity. 2 kills now on the Aphelios with an Enchanter. It's looking real good considering that we have a 1,500 gold lead for Weibo and EDG with their early game. Now we have to see how they turn the tides back.
Let's take a step back. Let's talk about the whole compositions though, because we have a lot of gold on the Aphelios, and EDG don't have the best tools to reach a fed Aphelios. Aphelios damage is safety. He gets to heal off of it, and someone like Ala, you can't stand against him.
He's got the campfire. He's burning down Ala with Dominus. Now wants to turn it onto Light, but he cleanses away. Ala sliced and diced in there. This top laner's they're so chaotic.
Isn't it wonderful when you're talking about something and it is completely shown an example on your screen? This Aphelios will control the game if EDG can't close them down.
And now Rift Herald is going to get started by WeiboGaming, but EDG, without their top lane and no TP, how do they even take this?
Xiaohu has the shuffle again. The Spring King now about to heat up Summer. Level 8 on this Azir, might not have the item, but still the engage potential as EDG are paying that respect. But Weiwei now with the eye exposed, looking for the smite, the damage poke down. It's taken though, JJ gets it, but will they pay for it? Xiaohu, no flash available, remember, as that Glacial Prison used, but Weibo are gonna zone off the eye.
Okay, it's a denial and out. They don't get the objective themselves, Weibo. It's a little awkward for them. It's not the end of the world. They're still ahead in gold, and EDG, they would have loved to have the early advantage in the way that we've talked about in the previous games with Renekton and Sejuani. When they get a lead, they want to keep pushing it.
Yeah, they're definitely pushing it, aren't they? Going into enemy jungle, trying to use the Shy in close quarters as Chris now moves up. Light is permanently staying in this top lane.
But Uzi is solo farming towards that bottom side, and he does regain somewhat of gold back into his pockets and a bit of experience, but still, Ala cannot face off against the bottom lane duo of WBG, so JJ, he needs to be here.
Yeah, the reason why EDG are roaming up here is because they know that Light on his next weapon rotation, when the wave crashes, will have Crescendum. That destroys turrets. It would have been even worse if a Herald had been available at that point too. EDG, they can't allow Light right now to be alone with a turret.
The Shy trying to zone off Uzi while his alone time with the turret is cut short. One plate given over to Lucian, who is 20 CS behind, by the way, and 3 kills to add to boot. Again, this 80 carry difference. I know in the last game got early kills, but Light always somehow finds a way.
Was that like a Jeff Goldblum thing? Like, life finds a way, life
That sounded really
That
philosophical.
sounded like it.
That's the most wise thing I'll ever say. So, again, absorb it as Ala. Maybe he needs some wisdom right now. Again, top laners got 1-for-1 in the solo kill.
The
but
Graviton
Light finds a way!
Graviton does indeed. Weiwei with the shock down, but Light is doing so much damage. Ala a lot here, but the breath of life is giving life into Light.
They are executing this Milio and Aphelios composition perfectly with the synergy, the extra range from the Cozy Campfire, allowing Light once again using the same mechanic with the Graviton.
Hang on, Uzi. I'm not sure about the situation because JJ's coming down. The Shy runs into them, and wow, what similar values we're used to is culling into the Shy. The value of killing this man could not be higher as EDG now trying to make the dive work. You can see Weiwei's coming in, but will he be there in time? Flash away. There's the shove up, but Weiwei trying to save the day's teleport. Now going to be cancelled through mid. EDG have found a way. Speaking of, he'll have to limp away with EDG getting solo turret time again.
Okay, the Shy kind of misses the Momo on the weak side again. It's a problem which occasionally, well, regularly has cropped up for the Weibo top laner, and at least now EDG get some value, they get some plates, and on the other side of the map, it's not like Light and Crisp have shredded down that turret on top side.
But Uzi is completely He has to back, although he will back with the Kraken Slayer. WeiboGaming, they have complete control over this upcoming dragon.
Would be the second one as well for EDG if they can pick it up, but as you said, Weibo with control might equal one apiece. Ultra Mega Fire Kick, Super Inferno, Disco Bomb comes from Chris. That's the cue. I think we can get a longer name next time as Light now back down to his lane. 11.5 minutes in, plating still available. And let's just mention that this guy already has so much gold. If he gets plating time, it could be doomed.
He's very close to getting something like his Gale Force as well, which will give him even more degree of safety. EDG, they're already going to struggle to shut him down. Light has enough gold to really carry this team.
You also see Fofo reset, so they will just give over the second dragon towards the side of WBG, but the early game has settled down just a little bit because WBG was able to deny the first Rift Herald away.
So who does that benefit? Because again, we talked about scaling for WBG. They've had an explosive early game, maybe far more explosive than we could have expected with this comp. EDG are obviously looking to find a bit of tempo.
They really are. Again, we cannot state this enough. It kind of applies to Azir as well, who also has some resources in this game, but particularly this Aphelios is going to be the core objective for EDG to kill, and with gold, that's going to be hard. They're teleporting onto him, though.
Yeah, so they're trying to make that play happen right now. JJ with an ulti in hand needs to hit Light. He's by himself as Ala jumps on him, but flash away immediately for Light as Weiwei saves the day. How good is Rel in this series?
And Chris cancels the engage from the side of EDG with his little bomb. What a great diffusion from the side of WBG, but Uzi, they want plates.
A dive
Just
here.
going again.
They find him. Light is going to be breath of life away, but he's knocked up. Everybody all in, but they can't kill Light. Everyone jumps, but EDG finally find the kill. Weiwei's at a low health value as Chris is just Emilio. Flashed away, flashed on by Uzi, and dead is Weiwei. EDG persevere, and they are rewarded.
We said it would be difficult, but they got their objective done. They killed the Aphelios, the 4-kill AD carry from Weibo. Light is snuffed out, and EDG are back in the game.
The difference is that Crisp is now 2-0 on this Rakan, but still a huge TP out of Ala, getting his hands onto Light, where he was able to force the flash immediately out of this Aphelios, and looking for that re-engage committed from Jie really sealed the deal.
That was a great disengage. You think the play's done, you think that Weibo, they're completely safe, and then they stick around under the turret. It's a mystery. They don't understand that EDG have more cooldowns left to bring to the play.
But isn't that the dichotomy of Weibo watching such a great play and then going, wait, hang on a minute, why did we stick around? Why did we do that? But EDG punished well, because I think that's what they've done 2 games in a row now.
WeiboGaming.
And something that is going to be really fun for this game is that we have Hex Gates. And you know who benefits of Hex Gates? EDG. They need flank angles from the Renekton, from Meiko on this Rakan. And you already see them cheating the tempo a little bit with 3 people taking that. And that's why Light was caught off guard with this tower push.
We saw them already do that with one of those wards, which they used to teleport beyond behind Light. If you manage to take a multi-angle fight and stop the Milio and the tanks being able to keep the Aphelios alive, then that really does change the flavor of this game. It's great that you bring that one up. We're even enough in gold now. I still think that EDG would have liked to, well, rather, really would have liked to have that gold advantage. It's not necessarily a comfortable place to be even in gold.
It's a lot better than it was a couple of minutes ago, right? 2k gold lead for Weibo.
You've got like step 1 done. Now what happens with like steps 2 through 10?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? We're getting towards first item territory for Bofo. I think that's a great place to start if you want to start talking about the damage coming online.
Here's the problem for EDG's composition, though. It's not going to be enough by going even against EDG or WBG's composition. With the Ornn, with the Azir, they're only going to get stronger as these items come online, specifically for the double carries in Xiaohu and Light. So EDG, they need to force these timers with the flashes being down.
I think another thing which adds on to that problem is EDG don't have something like an Alistar, which will be very hard to kill in the front line as a Rakan. And yes, Meiko is doing well on that pick and was pivotal to that last play, but you don't get to be the front line that survives Azir and Aphelios damage in this game. It's all going to have to go into Ala and JJ. We've got ourselves a Herald being started up. It's a cross map though, trying to get more gold into this Lucian. Lucian is very bursty, getting gold into Uzi. It can help them achieve their core goal. We're trying to dash forward and kill the carries.
And despite the early game, he has been able to recover, so that gold has been channeling slowly but surely. With that turret plating going down, it feels like, turret, that Uzi is able to get to the second item very shortly, as topside also goes for the trade, plus the Herald, meaning Weibo get a little bit more.
Honestly, kind of surprised that Xiaohu decided to go into the Liandry's for this game in particular, because we already highlighted that EDG, they don't have a lot of tanky frontline other than Jie. Maybe something like the Shadow Crown would have worked better.
Lights out, great Gale Force, in fact, maxes the range here on the Prison, but Weiwei now in a bit of trouble. Campfire is out, and that balloon just following over the side means that Weiwei gets a bit more movement speed and healing, while now the map's quite open with Weibo opening top. And
if you need another example of how hard it is to catch this Aphelios, the Gale Force ends up being very pivotal there. We have a minute until the Dragon comes up again. It's not 2 early Dragons, it's 1 apiece, so it's not like it's going to be a race towards an early Soul. But with the vision control on the bot side of the map, I wonder if EDG can start setting up a surprise flank again with their teleport and Ala coming up soon.
The key thing is Meiko will have the flash available for this upcoming teamfight, while Light won't have his if they do start the Dragon the second it spawns. With so many great TP wars, Jie, he's looking for top lane.
I mean, that's because the Shy's at half HP. Yes, again, 3 members on the Shy, threatening. If he sticks around, that won't be a surprise either, as WeiboGaming looking to cover 30 seconds before Dragon.
What EDG are trying to do is change sides of the map quickly so Weibo have to fight away from their vision. It's something that we see from teams like, RNG used to do in their heyday. We've seen it from teams like T1 as well. EDG are trying to force Weibo to make a mistake on vision.
But is it going to get turned on? The Shy still has that ulti as Fofo sitting in lane while Weiwei now spots out with Meiko. EDG sticking around as the 3-man unit while you can see that split. Moves Weibo back towards mid to get priority with this Dragon now up.
Overall, still relatively a good play for the side of WeiboGaming, because they are just slowly farming until 3 items. Xiaohu unthreatened on this Azir towards the side lane, and of course the Aphelios 2v1ing against Uzi in the mid. But still, EDG, they need to force something to happen, because once the Baron's also up on the plates, WBG, they have a lot of options to work off.
That's a really good point. It does feel like if EDG don't control top side of the map, if they end up leaving that around, again, you have a similar problem to the last game where there's a lot of Baron damage on the side of Weibo should it go off of vision. I mean, of course, in that case, Weibo ended up throwing that game, so maybe that'll work out in their favor in the long run. Xiaohu's going to get himself the last outer turret of the game for them towards this bot side of the map. Weibo have managed to time out EDG's vision towards bot side, so they're safe here for the moment.
No, they're not, because Weiwei just ran into the brush versus 3 people. His first mistake
He's out.
as he flashes out, yes, but look at what it took. Ulti, flash, now down. Ala's angle with the Hexgate usage, teleport as well. Weiwei may have just put WBG in such a bad spot. Teleport from the Shy with Call the Forge God active. He wants to use it to line them all up, but EDG aren't pulling the trigger.
So normally it's green for Go, but in this case it's light, it's blue for Go. He had himself an Infernum ult ready and primed to go if EDG grouped up and tried to overforce. That was very close for EDG to find one of those Hexgate plays, which Kitty was talking about earlier.
We also had double TPs burn from Fofo and the Shy for this play in particular, but most importantly, no flash available for Weiwei, and that is one of WBG's most important instant engages, I would suppose, for this upcoming Baron fight.
I think importantly enough as well, for WBG, their jungler showing a little bit of crack in the system because this guy has been so consistent. Weiwei has been talked up throughout the series already, but that moment there, again, just showing a little bit of the inexperience we've talked about before.
I mean, you could see what they were going for, right? They timed out the vision on bot side of the map from EDG. It wasn't like they were going to get flank warded on. He's still fairly tanky with it. He ends up getting out alive. Light, you cannot do this, though. Light, you can't do this!
He just walked into trouble. He's got flash, he's got cleanse. One burnt, the other now there. Without Chris, this guy's a sitting duck.
This is very dangerous for Weibo because we've got a minute until Dragons. Baron spawns. Xiaohu's got on the bot side as well. I think he ends up getting out alive, but now no summoners on the key player on Weibo. When Baron is about to spawn, EDG might be able to force a fight now and reach the Aphelios.
What a smart decision from the side of EDG. It was either the Aphelios or the Azir in the side lane, and at the end, Light had to burn the flash, like you said. So Crisp's ultimate in this upcoming T-fight has to be crucial and on point if they want to disengage.
You can see Weiwei now channeling in front. Culling comes out. Weiwei doesn't get the engage as Crisp is targeted with the culling from Uzi. He stepped up a little bit too far. The Shy goes for a searing charge, doesn't find it, but now Called Forge God there. Not interrupted, a re-engage. That's the Cozy Campfire plus the Infernum. Uzi's tagged out, ranged out, and once again, WeiboGaming rise. Fofo and Jeje see it out as Weibo just make it work.
It's death in the mid lane. The ERAM fails. Uzi goes down, and it's all at the hands of the clutch engage somehow coming out from the Shy.
And the Infernum from Light completely melts the either side of EDG, but now they start up the Baron, and with this scaling composition, they are going to slowly siege and suffocate EDG.
Jeje has flash, Fofo is here, but how hard to steal? The Shy says, you ain't getting in, brother. You may have been in Worlds before, but so have I.
It is barely beyond the 20-minute mark, and the Baron damage from Weibo is so high that it doesn't even matter. Very early Baron will allow them to control the map. They need to be careful coming back out on the map after this, but EDG, they commit to the mid lane once more, but Uzi doesn't have enough mobility to escape everything that is thrown at him. This is
a top gap because Ala wasn't even in the conversation to begin with, while the Shy is hitting a two-man ultimate onto Uzi, forcing the flash as well, but still great follow-up from the carries of WeiboGaming, and now this competition, who will excel at 5v5s, is truly online.
Some happiness in the crowds there. Of course, great amount of fans at either side present and accounted for today. Thing is, Xiaohu did use that flash in that last fight. Light still has his summoners down, and he doesn't have his ultimate for just a little bit. But either way, EDG, there is a chance they can use those Hexgates, use a teleport potentially to shut down Weibo's Baron push if they are not calculated.
But now remember, with Weibo having Baron, they've also got Dragon control as well. A minute until the Hextech Soul, or at least the Soul Point, to be acquired from Weibo. And when we're talking about this team being so good at front to back and scaling Avenue as well, I think WeiboGaming having this control is insane for EDG to now deal with.
There are a couple of flank wards available for EDG. There's one just in that mid lane, but it would have to be a very deep teleport for that point. It looks like they're trying to cross map instead, use Fofo on that lethality, building Jace to try and shred those turrets. EDG still losing out across the board. They would love to shut down this push, but they haven't found an angle yet.
Meiko doesn't have the flash either, so it's going to be incredibly hard for him to find an instant engage onto either Light or Xiaohu in this upcoming Dragon. I'm assuming EDG, they are just going to give over the Soul Point over towards WBG because they have no right whatsoever going towards bot.
All the Forge got those searing charge, doesn't connect. The Shy ends up ulting under turret as Light just comes in to say hello. And Ala is out for the time being. There's that teleport you guys talked about, but it's from Weibo instead. It ain't no flank, it is just Xiaohu joining in the fun.
There is one flank ward behind EDG. I'm just wondering if EDG want to even pull the trigger. You can see that Light chunking them down.
I mean, Ala's chunked out Uzi as well. There's the Magnus Storm. It's a one-man, but it's onto the jungle. They're trying to chunk out Jeje, and Light gets through the cracks. Weibo now with an inner turret, and the gold is skewering down.
EDG are running out of time. The Lucian, not the most ideal situation to be in because this Aphelios is a menace to deal with.
Hexgates will allow Weibo to get out of the base very quickly, go straight back towards that Dragon. They're not wasting that much time. The Shy will make it out just fine as well. Weibo, they take themselves a critical advantage of
This
that
is a
Baron
bait.
push. They're looking for
Oh
it
my
again.
God. They took the Hex Gate to pretend like they're leaving, but they're not. They're right back in against the wall. Weiwei sets it up. This might be the final play as WBG lost the last game, but they will not lose this one. 23 minutes. And Xiao Hu makes himself known again. Nexus turret standing in the way. The Shy might hint a little bit, but his team there to support him. WBG are making this look clinical as match point to go to the world stage. The Shy fans are rewarded.
And with the final push and them looking to kill Jie under his own fountain, they take this game to match point 2-1 now, and they're one game away from making it to Worlds.
Camera on Uzi, but it was a story of light. The light at the end of the tunnel was a Aphelios-shaped freight train headed their way. They tried to take down that Aphelios, they could not do it consistently, and at the end of that game, that Aphelios melee on 4-5, another very different draft coming in from Weibo, which we praised them for already, was really a tough nut to crack for EDG.
Was indeed. Kitty, what's happening?
I'm just writing my apology letter to why
Okay.
you should pick